This is the shoulder lab. So if you look on Canvas, you should have this piece of paper. The main thing that we're going to be going over with most of our labs today is down at the bottom. We're going to look at some tests. There's three different types of tests that we might do, not just with the shoulder, but any part of the body. One is a provocative test in which we're trying to provoke pain. The second one is a stability test in which we're testing the ligamentous stability of a joint. And then the last one is a strength test. And those are going to be the three main tests that we're going to do. So on our sheet we're going to do today, we'll do the apprehension sign, the sulcus sign, drop arm test, empty can test, which is also the same test for the supraspinatus. And then we'll do the infraspinatus and subscapularis. So we're basically looking at 6 tests that we're going to do today. So the first one is the apprehension test. This is a test for the shoulder stability, and it helps us to confirm a possible dislocation, or what we call a subluxation, where it partially dislocates and reduces itself. So what we do with the athlete is we bring them into 90 degrees of shoulder abduction, and then we start bringing them into 90 degrees of external rotation at the shoulder. So we're combining those two motions. This is the combined motion in which most often you're going to dislocate your shoulder. And what's going to happen is, as you bring them back into this position, I'm watching their eyes, and their facial expression is going to tell me whether this is a positive test or not. Because if their shoulder is unstable, they're going to start giving me signs of apprehension. They're going to have a look of fear in their eye, and they're going to stop me from going much farther. So all you basically have to do is bring them up into 90 degrees abduction, start externally rotating, watch their expression, watch their eyes. If it's going to be positive, they will stop. If I take them all the way back here and they feel nothing, they show no signs of apprehension, then it's a negative test. Now I'm going to have Jake sit up here on the end, and we're going to move next to the sulcus sign. It too is a shoulder stability. Now this one is typically more for multi-directional instability. So the apprehension was mainly for an anterior dislocation. So sulcus sign, all I'm finding is the edge of his acromion, and then with his elbow relaxed to his side, all I'm going to do is to press his shoulder inferiorly. So I'm going to move his elbow towards the table, and I'll feel his shoulder separate just slightly underneath my finger. Now that's going to be a positive test if there's a lot of distraction. So I can feel him just distract slightly, and it's got a solid endpoint. So that is a negative sulcus sign. There's grades of sulcus sign. All you need to basically know is that you're either going to have a lot of distraction or a minimal amount of distraction. A lot of distraction, they've probably got shoulder instability. And then the drop arm test is a strength test, testing the integrity of the supraspinatus tendon. It's one of your 4 rotator cuff tendons. So you basically draw a line where it's going to follow the scapula and then raise the arm. Now I raise the arm for the subject in this position, and then I ask him to hold it right here and don't let his arm drop. And then I'm going to let go. Now you see his arm stayed in place. It didn't move. With a positive drop arm test, what happens is his rotator cuff tendon, namely the supraspinatus tendon, is compromised, it's torn, it's strained, and it cannot hold him in place. So you bring them up to about this position, and then you let go, and you'll see his arm sag down before he's able to catch it. So that would be a positive drop arm test if we go from here and he drops to here. It is negative if he holds here and it stays here. The next one they call an empty can, or sometimes you'll see it as an open can. The can is empty because he's turned it and he's emptying it out. I typically will go with the open can. What we're doing is, again, we're testing the strength and the integrity of the supraspinatus tendon. So it's a tendon that runs underneath the acromion and about the plane of the scapula. So you don't want him too far forward, you don't want him way out to the side. You want to line the shoulder up to through the humerus at about that angle. And now what I'm going to ask him to do is just hold his arm here, and I want to put pressure straight down. And I feel him resisting, and as he resists, then I get a measure of strength from that. So if he gives me a good amount of resistance, and then I would test the other side to see if that's basically equal. Or if he's weak, I might start pushing and he's unable to resist even mild pressure against his arm. So this would tell me that he is weak in his rotator cuff tendon, namely his supraspinatus. The second, so now we're at the very bottom of the page. So again, the open can, empty can, and supraspinatus are basically the same test. So on the lab final, you won't have both of those on one test. Just recognize they're both the same thing. And now the subscapularis, what you do is you bring their hand into their belly button, and you're just going to have them press their hand towards their belly button. And I'm going to try to pull out. And so this is going to test the subscapularis. Again, it's a strength test, so I'm going to do side to side. And then the last one, the infraspinatus. You have the supraspinatus, which is above the spine of the scapula. Infraspinatus is below the spine of the scapula, and it's an external rotator of the shoulder. So what we're going to do is we're going to come here, and then I'm going to push his arm in, and he's going to resist against me. And so I'm building up pressure, and he is resisting against me. Again, if he's weak, I'm just going to push his arm in. I will tell him to resist as hard as he can as I begin to push, because his muscle is torn or is strained, or the tendon is torn or strained. He is unable to resist from this. So that's basically our lab for today. There is other information on the lab sheet that is on Canvas. Feel free to look through that, but mainly what we're focusing on is the things that are going to be on the lab final. So all 6 of these tests will be possible lab final possibilities for you.